Hello and welcome to today's MediaWorks Masterclass. We're going to talk all things AI-powered website growth, looking at how AI is transforming the future of user expectancy. What we've been looking at is, as you know, over the past few weeks, we've been looking at a range of topics, a range of areas that we've been focusing upon. So for me, it's really important that we're sort of bookending this nicely with all things AI. I know I talk about it in every session that we do. There hasn't been a session this year where we haven't referred to AI in some way, shape or form. So for me, when we're talking about this AI opportunity, we're talking here about really a consultation. Mm-hmm. So for me, this is really an opportunity where you can book a free 30-minute consultation with one of our team to talk about AI opportunities that are going to be integrated into your user experience. That could touch on any of the things that we're going to talk about today. So it could be anything for how do we use websites experience? How do we utilize AI at the checkout to drive personalized experiences? It could also link with creative. This isn't a send us a URL, we'll review everything. This is a let's actually have a look at what you're exactly doing and we can then have a bespoke conversation. So as I say, do register using the link in the chat that you can register through right now. By all means, click on there and we'll go through all of that as we go through today. So again, I would like to do some introductions. Feels like we went straight into it there, so I'll do introductions now. I feel like people might know me in terms of hosting these masterclasses.
Now, David.
Is that right? Yeah. That's a bit strong. But yeah, my name's David Norris and I'm Chief Operating Officer here at MediaWorks, and I'll be hosting today's masterclass. Johnny, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Johnny, UX Director. So I sit between many of our teams, data and insights, dev, design, to ultimately look at how we look at that end-to-end experience. And in this case, looking at where AI features as part of that journey, but also part of our external strategy, but also internal strategy as well.
Fantastic.
And I'm Paul Mallett, Managing Partner. I look after our strategy and insights team, but tend to work, again, very closely with Johnny and the guys across strategy and creative. And yeah, I love a bit of UX and AI.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it, for what we're covering today is we're going to talk about how this is becoming much more part of an integrated approach, and we're seeing that across the site, and it's definitely something that all organisations, in my opinion, are thinking about or considering. I think some are way further down that journey than others, but again, I think it's part of us really talking about the art of the possible and also giving some actionable insights as we go through and come to the culmination of this UX focus series. So I guess where to start? We always start with a nice definition or scoping exercise, if you like, Johnny. So I guess when we talk about AI-powered website growth, what does that actually mean?
So for me, when we think of AI, people automatically may go down the route of ChatGPT or thinking in that sense. But every time someone goes to largely a lot of sites, AI is already integrated as part of that experience. You just don't always notice it. So it's 61% of consumers are using AI-driven services daily. Well, actually, that's showing the depth of how many of the sites that we use on a day-to-day basis, whether that is an e-commerce site, whether it's a lead generation site, or whether it's a service such as Netflix or something like that. You are constantly getting served personalization or information based on the learnings of artificial intelligence that sits behind that.
Yeah, like for me, I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think that we've like AI's become this all-encompassing term, which actually refers to often things like machine learning. Yeah. Like, and machine learning in various guises in digital marketing has been present for, Paul, you'll tell me.
Yeah, a long time. I think what's interesting, Johnny and I were talking earlier, and I think what's interesting about AI at the moment is how implicit it is. In terms of you don't notice it's happening, and then where it's explicit. So like you Google AI generated result at the top of the page, it's very explicitly this is from the AI. Yeah. And I think that's an interesting one to keep an eye on in the future, is how much it just is implicit and we take it for granted, and how much you get a big button saying, give me the AI now, please.
Yeah, I think it is. It's it is. It's completely fascinating, and I think that leads us nicely into sort of how AI is changing user behaviour and expectations. Because, as you say, is it explicit or is it implicit? And I think there's that whole debate around what are we doing there? How does it actually integrate with everything that we're doing, Johnny? So I guess how is it changing sort of behaviour and expectations?
Yeah, so we've looked at a lot of different examples, and we've got a couple in here that talk around how it's built into everybody's day-to-day journey that you may not even realize as a level of AI, because it might not be necessarily what people are labeling as AI as part of that experience. But really what it's bringing in is it's bringing forward a view of personalization very quickly. I think the stat, not this one, I think the stat is 79% of people are expecting personalization as part of that journey, and I think it's close to 70% of people are frustrated when personalization isn't part of a journey. And really, AI can become a supporting act in delivering that personalization that people expect to be as part of the experience.
And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I know we've talked about this quite often, Paul, around, like, I think people listening into and engaging with this session today are probably over-indexed for AI usage, you know, because of the nature of our roles. Whereas if you speak to, you know, my best friend who's a plumber, or my, you know, retired mum or whoever, it's like their engagement with AI and their expectations and understanding of it is very, very different. So I think, like, we all probably think that the market is further on than we actually actually is.
And I
right
think
now.
anybody working in tech, but also creative industries, you're very exposed to AI and like your Adobe Suite and music production, all these kind of things that AI's there. But everyone shops. Everyone uses ASOS, everyone uses Amazon, and you know, it's there that the AI is going to, you know, that's going to be interesting how that comes into play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've put some examples here of where we're seeing that personalization I touched on there in terms of things like Netflix, Amazon. If you go on your Netflix account versus what Paul will do on his, you will be served very different images for the same shows based on your viewing history versus Paul's viewing history, in terms of what may look like a image that shows a horror type approach for you, maybe a romance approach for you, but and that's some judgment on what you watch. But it's basically trying to serve up and push you towards programs. This might be the same program, but based on what you've watched previously. That is AI generated machine learning technology putting things in front of you that it is suggesting that you'd want. This level of personalization, you get that through all shopping sites. You know what Amazon's like for pushing stuff. Buy also bought with this, or you may also like. All of that is a level of personalization that people have come to expect, that is generated through machine learning, understanding your habits and what you viewed on site.
Yeah, I mean, my Netflix account, for what it's worth, is completely ruined by K-pop and my children at the moment, because they don't ever seem to want to change profiles. They just go to whatever profile comes up and then go and find the thing. So that's an experience in itself.
I think instant gratification as well is that people are using sort of AI assistance for speed and relevance. I think now we're looking for an instant answer to everything. I think the way we utilize search is now also becoming very different, whereby at one point you were searched websites that may answer your question. You are now given the answer, and then here's the links to other bits and pieces, and that again is changing the behaviors of people wanting answers even faster. So just making sure that that's getting used in that instance, and also on site when people are making those searches on site, they expect the right content to appear very quickly because of the behaviors they're learning through AI in that sense, but also things like ChatGPT or anything like that, where you are getting fed the answer on a very quick basis. Conversational search, you see that obviously people utilizing ChatGPT aren't looking for one-word answers. They're looking for a conversational answer, and you don't even ask the query in the old world of how you would have used Google, where you just put keywords in. You are now searching as a sentence, or searching as a more of a paragraph. Specifically, if you utilize in ChatGPT to get a conversational answer back, you then feed that back through different levels of conversation, and it's almost becomes similar to what an old chatbot kind of works. It's that conversational aspect where people wanted to just give them the answer and work in a longer form piece of content.
And I see that in my own behaviour. So even just using the Google AI summary rather than the full AI mode, I am doing way more complex searches. I wasn't a big long tail,
Yeah.
lengthy keyword kind of person. But once you realise that is the way to get the best out of it, then I think we'll see that really changing. But I think your point there, they expect natural language queries to just work. That isn't true within Amazon at the moment. It isn't true within Tesco's.
Yeah.
So but I think that's the whole point of this is you always need to adopt to the frictionless route.
Yeah.
So if consumers are getting used to this using natural language, then guess what? We need to be doing that within whatever kind of website we're looking at.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Paul. And then supporting with decision making.
Yeah, so you'll see that, if you go to a site that has multiple products, like an Amazon, you will be led down the route of the thing that is best for you and best that meets your circumstance. And it's similar now, you'll see this across clothing sites as well. Not that I spend loads of time in a clothing site, but it's almost, you'll see this also works with this, or this works best with this, or this product's recommended for you, is that it's almost taking away the ownership of actually having to research like for like products. Now people expect their best suggestion for them based on their needs, what they've seen in the past and what they expect as part of their journey. It now is just an integrated part of that shopping experience.
Yeah, I think it just shows, doesn't it, like things are moving, and I think that leads us nicely onto that human-like support in terms of like where this is heading, because I think what we're all talking about there is some of those frictions that you mentioned in terms of like how do we adapt our search behavior and what does that mean, and moving with the times, etc. But this really is where businesses, I think, see a lot of value, isn't it, in terms of where can you offer that human-like support, because it's a massive efficiency driver, this, isn't it?
Huge efficiency driver on this. I think in terms of the biggest frustration, I think probably over the past 10 years of conversations I've had about chatbots or anything like that has been, it's not like speaking to a person, and everybody gets frustrated and drops off. Now we're in a space where that conversation is more likely, but also you're not necessarily having to have a team of 100 people sat behind a live chat ready to speak to everybody. You can get that support through some of the services that are available, utilize AI assistants to have that conversational approach with people, utilizing what they're searching for and feeding back relevant answers using the content that's on your site. The content's the important part.
Yeah, I think it is. The content is a really important piece, and I know we're doing loads of work around like how does content show itself? What does it actually mean in terms of how do you actually make it personalized, relatable, like those tailored user experiences? Where's it pulling the information from? There's a whole host of things that we covered when we did actually sort of content as a standalone session. So I guess like where can AI genuinely add value to users' experience and website performance, Johnny?
Yeah, I think as we've kind of touched on here, 40% of consumers use AI search tools every day, and I think the search is one of the biggest ones that can come into this. I think people are now used to it because they're using, whether it's ChatGPT or using AI overviews, people are expecting that answer to come in that kind of format now, and people are expecting much faster responses into either finding a product or finding a service or finding a piece of content. So I think search is the most obvious place that AI can support, making sure that we're offering the most personalized response to what somebody's looking for. Not everybody is fed the same generic answer, the same generic product. It's very specific to you and what your search queries have been in that space.
And on the screen, it's kind of like that, looking at that screenshot, it's kind of hinting at visual search as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And so things like Google Lens coming along. I mean, Google Lens has been around for, I don't know, about 8 years, maybe even a bit longer. I remember doing a campaign that said, use the Google Lens app, and it was a standalone app. Yeah. Now, normal human beings know that they can take a photo of something and do a visual search on it. Yeah. And you're seeing that all over the place, which is, I mean, it absolutely AI powered.
It's the exact same. To touch on that point a bit further, it's the same with voice search as well. Yeah. I mean, people have products integrated into their day-to-day lives in their house where they will be firing queries and searches as they're just walking around, adding things to shopping list. I know that speaking to our CEO, he does it quite often where he adds things to his shopping list and even gets that voice search to make a purchase as part of like what it's doing, and all of that is fueled by these models.
Yeah, we're becoming much more comfortable with the range of technologies that are out there, aren't we? I don't know about you, but I've got friends who like WhatsApp voice note me. It's almost to send me like a podcast. Because honestly, it's like not a short comment anymore. It's like a 3-minute monologue about things. And I'm like, can we not just have a conversation? But anyway, it just shows that people are changing the way that we engage with the technology that's out there.
Absolutely. And a couple of other examples is sort of just navigation, I think, is an important one. Again, it's making sure that we're building around the direction that people are going with that search and how they're wanting to find products or navigate through information. Product discovery, we've just touched on there, can come in a mixture of physical typing search online, but also image search, voice search. People are looking for things in different ways. Customer support, chatbots, people want that human-centered approach, that level of empathy that you would get from a human and not a chatbot, but AI can allow you to move into that space at a much quicker pace. Content personalization, again, similarly, we had a chat around this with a housing association recently around if somebody's coming back to the same page multiple times, how do we utilize AI to profile them on that website? So if they were coming to an inability to make a payment on their rent, they viewed that page of what they should do 3 times. We know there's a pain point there. How does the 4th time they come, we serve them a phone number? Because we know they need a conversation, and all of that is just personalization based on the information that we're learning about somebody. And then, yeah, fraud and security, I think, is it's an increased trust piece of checkout, making sure that people feel that they know they're moving through this, and there's different guards in that space with utilizing things like WorldPay or Stripe that have all of this integrated in to make a much seamless checkout experience.
And I think that this list here goes back to that implicit, explicit. Some of those things you would absolutely expect to be baked into the user experience. So, you know, fraud, security, guardrails. But back to your outfit curation thing. And, you know, once it gets to know what you really like to wear, you know, it's going to keep serving you, you know, jeans and a nice fleecy zip top. At that point, do you need a button, an explicit button that says, can I just break the AI for a minute? And, you know, mix things up.
Yeah.
And what you're getting in the creative industries is there's a lot of AI happening in music production and that kind of thing. They'll often give you a little dice button, and you can click the dice, and it just rolls the dice and gives you a different version.
Right, okay.
So I think there's interesting ways that is developing as well. But I think the implicit, explicit thing is definitely something for people to think about how and when to use both.
Yeah, and what I would say is I think these 5 areas are definitely areas that, you know, if you do want to sign up, and I know I've talked about it previously, to one of our consultations, are some of the areas that we're very comfortable having a conversation, because again, everybody's at a different stage with this, and it all is relevant. It's context specific. So as I say, I'm sure you've seen the link in the chat. Do sign up if you do want to speak to one of the team on any of the elements that we go through today. So I guess, Paul, over to you then, really. How do you start? I think this is the thing for me, a lot of people want to know is how do you actually start to build sort of a simple AI-powered digital strategy? Because I think we know about digital being important. Everybody knows AI is driving a lot of the activity now, but pulling those things together, I think, is, you know, the first step's often the most difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. And you know, the stats speak for themselves. So we definitely should all be thinking about this and this should be something that is a big priority for us, certainly going into the next 12 months. If you just go to the next slide, I think that, right, it's easy for us to sit here and dream and go like, oh, it should be like this, it should be like that, and, you know, everything will be AI driven. And I was hearing somebody on the radio yesterday, and we're talking about what clothes would look like in 50 years' time. And basically they said, we'll all just have a onesie, but everyone will wear the same thing. And then the whole thing will just be projected onto you, depending on your mood, that the AI would have worked out, oh, you're going to work, you need to look like this. Right, anyway, so we can all dream. But really, this all comes back to some really, really fundamental principles of, you know, don't start by saying, oh, I've seen this in AI. Start by saying, what are the key user journeys? Where are people doing? Look at what the pain points are, and then say, okay, for that pain point, is there something that could be added to that? Is it adding data? Is it adding some AI support? So it's mapping out those opportunities. start small, be iterative. You know, don't try and AI your whole digital experience. You know, start with one bit. You know, it might be, like Johnny said, a page that people are repetitively coming back to, and thinking how can you personalize and make that page dynamic. Look at success metrics, and you know, will they be just about conversion rate, or will it be things like reducing dwell time on a page? You know, I think there's things like that we need to think about. AI, in a lot of these cases, is being assistive. So if it's helping you, then probably you should get your task done quicker, with a better outcome. You know, so it's those kind of metrics. And then the final thing, keeping humans in the loop. And all of us are using AI all the time, and we still see that AI can be problematic. You know, it's a bit of a corny thing, but you know what? AI is neither artificial nor intelligent.
Yeah.
It's definitely real, but it's definitely not sentient as a human. So we need to keep just checking what it's doing, and you know, if something unusual happens, think why it might have happened. And so keeping the humans in the loop is really good, but also I just genuinely also think that we are all humans. We relate best to other humans. So keep the human beings as part of the experience where that's going to give you the best answer.
Yeah, I was thinking about these sort of points that you make here, and I think, like, for me, AI has the potential to be revolutionary and is seen as a very revolutionary technology. But actually, for most organizations, you want to roll that out in a evolutionary way where it's iterative, it learns over a period of time. Because, you know, I'm even thinking about Google's search experience. Like, they haven't just gone, right, stop, we're all going straight into AI overviews or AI modes. You know, it started with, it was rolled out across 3% of searches, then it was 7% of searches, then month by month they've iterated as they've gone and learned. And I think that for me is the key here. I think people hear AI and they get whipped up into a frenzy over it, and it has got so much transformative power. But actually, it's about understanding, like, how do you evolve that? How do you actually engage that with the systems that you've already got, to make sure that we're enhancing the performance and not taking too big a step that you lose people along the way?
And I think that's the also thing to consider is your users come to your site, whether they use it monthly, weekly, daily, don't want to suddenly come one day and your whole experience is completely shifted and completely different. They want to see these small pieces that are almost removing pain points. And it goes back to the old UX piece of good UX is never seen because it's always felt. And it's similar to the AI piece. Like, you initially want it to be not really noticed because it just becomes part of the natural integrated experience. Then you can start to build on that and become a little bit more obvious with it. But it's almost the immediate is how do you start feeding it in just to remove some of those pain points rather than potentially adding another pain point into the mix.
Yeah, and I love this, by the way, Paul. I think it's brilliant in terms of giving people something tangible to actually consider and work the way through. So I guess then we talk about when to implement AI for maximum impact and efficiency without it being a gimmick. I think, like, that's the importance of, there's loads out there that you could do, but I think it's about the selection of sort of where do you utilize some of these technology and tools. So I guess sort of we're talking here about some key statistics.
Yeah, I think for me it's similar to what you said just before there is when you look at AI and think about where to put it, it's very easily to get whipped up into how big can I go with this and how revolutionary can I be? But almost in that sense, does that piece of AI become a gimmick on site and just mean that you're potentially harming the user experience? You're not thinking about how you're enhancing it, both the user experience, but also the internal teams as well, because you've got to think that if you implement something on site, what's that going to do to a call center or contacts or something along those lines where you may implement more and it almost a third of shop ban and purchase poor search. But we're looking here at how do we implement that as a natural part of the journey without it being too much? And I think there what we're saying is people expect it to be part of that journey now.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd go back to video on this. So it's interesting. If you go back a few years, it was like video is the most engaging media format in terms of digital. So then what everyone did was they loaded websites with loads of video content. And then actually what we found happened was killed you on terms of like on, page load speed, website performance, etc. So people were then actually going to landing pages that had too much video on them, weren't loading and jumping off. And you sat there going, it needs to be integrated into that as a seamless experience. So it needs to always be, thought through in terms of like where not to just go with the trend, but where's it actually driving performance and actionable activity?
And I think, yeah, what we want to touch on is sort of like high volume journeys first. I think, as Paul's touched on, look at those key journeys, but where we're going to see the most impact is where most of our users are moving through, whether that's in checkout, the search, product discovery. That is going to gain us a lot of impact very quickly, allow us to see what's working and what's not. When friction's measurable, I think, again, where you're seeing people drop off or dwell time on pages, you touched on there, what can we do to be able to measure the impact of what we're doing? Because it's so important to know that if we're going to spend time looking at an AI solution, an AI fixture, what is that? How does it work in that sense? When return on investment's clear, it's a very similar thing. It's almost, how do we understand the investment time that you've put into this is working, and therefore a long-term investment of your organisation.
Yeah, and that's almost been our approach when we've been doing a lot of these audits for people in the Vastas. Is that's our approach to UX right there? Really, it's looking at sort of, you know, high volume journeys first. When friction is measurable, when there's a clear ROI, like, it has to be driving ultimately that performance. So I guess, like, when infrastructure's ready and not too early are really important as well.
Yeah, I think it's making sure that we're putting scalable solutions in place. We want to make sure that, again, like I touched on there, is the gimmick aspect. You don't want to put something in place that you then almost become a dead end in terms of what you're doing, and you've trapped yourself down a road that isn't going to allow you that long-term growth. But too early in the process as well, like, are you ready for this? What are you, is it small change that you're ready for? Don't try and dive in at the deep end when the organization isn't ready, but also your users might not be ready for this. And it's making sure that as a whole, you're already moving that.
Just one very quick thing, because I said to Johnny, it's all very well saying, oh, but use a bit of AI. And I was saying, well, what do we actually mean by that, though?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, a lot of this is about being practical, and it is looking at your web platform, it's looking at the CMS that you're using, it's looking at the plugins that you're using, the different components that you're using, and you'll be discovering that they are, the developers of all of those will be adding AI features. And the critical thing is not to just switch on all the AI at once, but to think about your content AI, your shopping AI, and you know, and then this becomes quite a practical exercise to go through.
Agreed. And I guess, like, we know that AI is fueling a whole new world of enhanced experiences that we wanted to talk through, Paul. So
yeah, so I think earlier in the series we have talked about things like AI production techniques. We were talking about that in the performance marketing sessions that we did, and I think, you know, the user experience is, but I mean, David just kind of said, don't put too much video on your website. However, there is a time and a place for video.
100%.
And what we've been looking at is, you know, a lot of websites are full of stills, and the still tell a story. But then, you know, well, what if you could use video? What if you could tell more of a studio? So this is a story. So this is just an example that we did for a client, where the image on the left is a still that's on their website, and if you just hit play, so then that is using AI to just take that still, instantly turn it into a video, that then it starts to tell a story. Now, why is this important? Because often a video is very good at setting the scene, creating the mood for your website.
Yeah.
You know, some people might be going, what do you mean the mood for your website? Well, if you go on Aston Martin's website, you'd expect it to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And if you go on, think of another random example. Anyway, different brands have different feels. Yeah, you know, you're gonna have certain expectations, and I think that thinking about this and thinking about, like, oh, this always used to be so painful. They're using AI to kind of overcome some of these things, capture attention, story tell, reinforce your brand, and you know, and why do you do all of this? Because if you've got an engaged user that is buying into the vibe, your brand, they are going to convert better. Yeah. So be using AI tools as much for your content production as for your user experience. But I would say content is part of user experience anyway.
Yeah, so, and then it doesn't matter. I think that the example here is this is very much a B2B focused like platform, website, sorry, or set of videos, and you can use that whether you're a housing association, whether you're a council, whether you're a leisure centre. Like, there's a whole way that you can create that feel, and I think that's important. So I guess finally, in the last couple of minutes, where to start? Like, I know we often talk about the practical sort of outputs, and we've talked about where to start from a digital strategy and AI perspective. But where is the point, Johnny? Final words over to you, I guess.
In terms of where we always begin when we're looking at a strategy around AI is identifying one key user journey. It's not to jump in and try and do it everywhere. It's really understanding one specific journey. Where are the friction points and how could AI begin to solve that? It's about not forcing that feature in. It's about understanding where it can support. It's then about picking one AI tool or feature and run a test pilot. Like what we've been looking at recently, as Paul's just touched on there around sort of CMS stuff, is Umbraco offer Engage, which allows us to build. It starts to understand personas and really understand who's using your site, profiles those users. So again, we've picked one feature and allowed it to run, allowed the data to build. It's not about diving in and expecting results straight away from it. And then it's defining that measurement. What are you trying to do? What is that friction point? What are you trying to achieve? And does it get you there? It's almost, as you touched on before, that UX model of understanding where to implement, how to implement, and then what the success should be. Yeah. But it's just taking a step back to align those three things for me is just then making sure you have that plan in place and not just trying to quickly implement as much as you can across your site, because that's when it becomes the gimmick.
No, I think that's a fair point and a good place to finish almost, Johnny, as well. What I would say is hopefully you found this user experience series of masterclasses really insightful, useful, etc. And I think we've had like nearly 1,000 people engage with this masterclass series alone, and it's been fantastic to do some of those audits and conversations sort of as we've gone through the weeks. What I would say is, again, just if anybody does want to sign up and just have a conversation with us as an organisation around how you are currently utilising AI across your organisation, across those key user journeys. Hopefully you've taken quite a lot of value out of the last 4 sort of masterclasses that we've delivered where we've had conversations with our, amongst ourselves, but actually sort of this is an opportunity to have a conversation directly one-to-one with some of the specialists in our team. So again, links in the chat. We'll share this post session as well via email. So anybody who does want to speak to one of our team on sort of any elements of AI and how that might present opportunities for your business and want to explore and bounce ideas off, then please do sign up.
And even let us loose on some of his still images, and we'll make some amazing videos for you.
Yeah. Paul's definitely been doing that. Some of the amazing stuff we're doing in that space is fantastic. And then I guess this is slightly weird because it's the first reference to sort of the festive season, if you like, of my year.
Too early.
It feels very early. But on Thursday, the 2nd of October, 10 a.m, the next masterclass we'll be delivering will be focused on Black Friday. Seems, again, quite early, but we'd actually probably in the paid space be saying it feels quite late.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conversation out there, but if you want to talk anything Black Friday, if you're a retailer, if you're a non-retailer actually, because Black Friday is now moving across and is becoming much more wider in terms of just general consumer behaviour, then do join us on Thursday the 2nd of October at 10 a.m, where myself, James and Claudia from the paid team will be talking all things about improvements that we can make and activation activity leading into Black Friday. But thank you very much for your input today, Paul. Thanks, Johnny, and thanks for everybody who's listened, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.